Hi, third grade. It's time for religion. So I'd like you to open your book, page 197, where we're going to read about one of our saints, Saint Gregory the Great. And he lived in the years 540 to 604. So that was about 500 years after Jesus. But it was a long time ago. It was about 1,500 years ago, a little bit more. St. Gregory didn't want to be the Pope, but was elected Pope anyway. So did you know the Pope is elected by the cardinals? St. Gregory, he was a very modest man. He just didn't really think that he could be the leader of all the people. We've been reading about leaders. But the cardinals thought that he could be the leader. The Pope has a special job. He is guided by the Holy Spirit to lead the church. Gregory was sad to give up his life as a monk, but he knew he had to do what God wanted. After he was Pope, he trained missionaries to go preach the gospel. So he sent other ordained ministers, other monks, other priests out to spread the good news. Gregory thought beautiful music helped us pray better. I liked listening to our music at church and singing along. I think the beautiful music also helps. Gregorian Chant, a special kind of music, is named for him. And sometimes we do the Gregorian chants in church, or Father will do part of the Gregorian chants. I'm not going to do them right now, but I'll bet if you Google Gregorian chants, ask your mom or dad if you can, and listen to some of the chants. We used to do them a lot when the Mass was said in Latin. When I was a little girl, the Mass was all said in Latin instead of English. So how do you feel when you're asked to do something you don't want to do? Sometimes you might refuse. Other times you might say, well, I'll give it a try. I don't want to. But the more we try, the better we become at doing things. So you can learn more about St. Gregory the Great by going to the website that they've listed here. That's a Catholic website. But now I want you to think about everything we've learned in this chapter, and I want you to do the activity at the bottom of the page. My church community. Fill in the blanks to show how you belong to the community of the Catholic Church. All around the world, Catholics everywhere. How do we belong? So you're going to write, my name is, and put your name. I belong to a parish in the Diocese of, and we talked about this yesterday. What diocese are we a part of? Our pastor is, what is Father's name? And you could write both priests down, but our head pastor is one we talked about yesterday. Our bishop, remember arch is for like a bigger area, but we have a bishop. So write the name of the bishop. If you don't know, see if you can find out. And our pope, write the name of the pope. And I haven't been using their names because I want you to find out what their names are. Write them in. And when you're finished with this, it says, do some research with a family member to find out one thing that is unique about your parish or diocese. See if there's anything special about our parish or our diocese. When you finish with this, I want you to spend some time working on that Mother's Day card. Okay, make sure you have it ready so that you can give it to your mom on Sunday, or earlier if you want. Now I'm going to read from Amelia Bedelia. Has it ever happened to you where mom or dad or Someone says, hey, let's go do this. And you're like, oh, I can't wait. Let's go, let's go. And you get ready and you get in the car and you start driving. And it's like, where are we going? I thought we were going. And you had misunderstood. That's what happened to Amelia Bedelia. Her dad said, we're going to go roaming, meaning like roaming around, just exploring. She thought he meant they were going to Rome in Italy. So she was pretty disappointed. Okay, but the fact is, they are going to go on a vacation. And they're just going to roam around their own town and their own state. I'm on chapter 2. The day they left was bright and sunny. Amelia Bedelia's father was in the driveway putting their luggage in the car. Amelia Bedelia dragged her bag outside. There were tons of bags piled next to the car, enough luggage for 2 families. Can all of that really fit in our car? Asked Amelia Bedelia. No problem, said her father. It's part of the job of being a dad, knowing how to pack a trunk. A trunk is definitely too big and heavy, said Amelia Bedelia. Wait a second. Dad's going to pack the trunk of the car, but Amelia thinks he's going to pack a big trunk, like bigger than a suitcase. She says, you should use regular bags like Mom and I do. And she handed her luggage to him. Good thinking, said her father, as he lifted her bag. An electrical plug and cord slipped out and dangled in the air. He set the bag back down. What have you got in here? Amelia Bedelia opened her bag and took out her desk lamp. Do you need a desk lamp when you go on a vacation? You told me to pack light. Oh my goodness. That's an idiom. Pack light means, don't pack too many things. But Amelia thought, I better take my lamp so I have a light because Dad said to pack light. That is so silly. This is the only light in my room that isn't attached to the ceiling. You won't need that, said her dad. There will be lights where we're going. Then he pointed into her bag. Is that your backpack? It sure is, said Amelia Bedelia, holding it up for him to see. You told me to pack my backpack, too. I think her dad, he just shook his head and said, I meant pack your backpack full of stuff you want to take, not pack it inside your suitcase. Where's the checklist I asked you to make? Amelia Bedelia reached into her suitcase and pulled out a sheet of paper. It was covered with check marks. A piece of paper with checks all over it. Making a list of checks got boring, Amelia said. So I switched sizes and colors to make it more interesting. So she made some checks with stripes and polka dots. But is that what her dad meant? Her dad shook his head and said, Now hold everything. Hold everything, said Amelia Bedelia. She's trying to hold everything. Dad, I can't pick up all this stuff. Honey, hollered Amelia Bedelia's mother, or father to Amelia's mother. Amelia Bedelia's mother took Amelia Bedelia back inside to help her repack. Amelia Bedelia, she said, in most families, dads pack cars and moms ask for directions and kids ask, Are we there yet? You'll see how it works. When they went back outside, the heap of luggage was neatly packed in the car trunk. Amelia Bedelia handed her bag to her dad. Thanks, sugar, he said. I've got just the spot. and he slid it into an empty space. Now the trunk looked like one of those wooden puzzles that are impossible to put back together once you take them apart. "Run and get finally, okay?" he said. "You're not stuffing her in the trunk too, are you?" asked Amelia Bedelia. "Oh, don't be silly," said her dad. "There's no room." Amelia Bedelia knew her dad was teasing. Finally was going to a kennel called the Paw Palace. They were going to drop her off on their way out of town. At long last, Amelia Bedelia, her parents, and finally were ready to leave. When her dad backed out of the driveway, Amelia Bedelia felt the car go bump, bump as they drove over the uneven sidewalk and out onto the street. That bump, bump feeling always meant that she was home. It suddenly dawned on Amelia Bedelia that she wouldn't feel that bump, bump for a whole week. She was already homesick. They dropped off finally at the Paw Palace. As she got back into the car, Amelia Bedelia wiped her eyes. "Don't worry," said her mom. "Finally, we'll be fine. She'll get to hang out with other dogs, and your friend Diana is going to take her for walks, right?" "I know," said Amelia Bedelia. "And my friend Charlie is bringing his dog Pierre to visit. Plus, guess what? The Paw Palace even has a puppy pizza night." "Hey," said her dad, "the next time I'm in the doghouse, I'm going to check in there." The next time I'm in the doghouse. Have you ever heard someone say, "You're in the doghouse, young lady or young man"? That means you're in trouble. So Dad's saying, the next time I get in trouble because I forgot to mow the lawn and Mom got mad, I'm going to have to go to the doghouse. But I'll go to the kennel where they serve pizza. It's another idiom. I'm in the doghouse. "You're out of luck, honey," said Amelia Bedelia's mom. "They won't take you unless you're housebroken." Oh dear. Amelia Bedelia burst out laughing. Even her dad had to laugh. He usually made the jokes in the family. But this vacation, it was switching things around. "Good one, Mom," said Amelia Bedelia, leaning forward to pat her mom on the shoulder. She glanced at the dashboard. That's the front of the car where it shows like how much gas you have and how fast you're going, and there might be a clock. And this is what she saw. "Hey," she said, "why is that little arrow pointing at the letter E?" Her parents looked at the gas gauge, then at each other. They both blurted out, "Didn't you fill the car with gas?" "You both can," said Amelia Bedelia. "There's a gas station right there." While her dad pumped the gas, Amelia Bedelia and her mother got out to buy a snack. They'd gone barely a mile so far, but they were already hungry. "The fun is about to begin," said Amelia Bedelia's mom. "Look, we're on the edge of town." Amelia Bedelia looked around for a cliff or ledge, but things seemed pretty flat. When her mom said we're on the edge of town, she meant we're almost out of town. Amelia thought that they were on the edge, like of a cliff, and they were going to fall off. On the edge of town, another idiom. Amelia noticed a sign with the name of their town on it. Under the name was the word POP and the number 1007. "Mom, whose POP is that?" asked Amelia Bedelia, pointing at the sign. Her mother smiled and said, "That POP isn't someone's father. It's short for population. That number tells you how many people live in our town." Amelia Bedelia let out a low whistle. She couldn't believe it. Did that many people really live where she did? Amelia Bedelia ran back to the car, dug a crayon and her camera out of her backpack, then ran back to the sign. She made an X through the 7 and wrote the number 4 below, since the 3 of them would be out of town. Oh my goodness. You're not supposed to write on those signs. And just because you go out of town doesn't mean you don't still live in that town. Your house is still there, and you're going to go back. Then Amelia took a picture. When they returned from their vacation, she would bike over and change it back to 107 again. Are you ready to hit the road? Asked Amelia Bedelia's dad. He was fiddling with something on the dashboard. Did you just hear that idiom? Are you ready to hit the road? Do you think Amelia Bedelia thinks they're going to get out and hit the road with their hands? Punch it? That just means let's get going. Let's get in the car and take off, move. There, he said, I set the odometer to 0 so we can tell how many miles we drive. The odometer tells how many miles you've driven, and each time you fill up the gas tank, you might want to see how many miles, or when you go on a trip, see how many miles you drove just on your trip. He turned around and waggled his eyebrows at Amelia Bedelia. If a word ends in ometer, it counts things. We know that because we learned that meter means measure. To measure is to count. So from math and science too, when we were doing volume and mass. The odometer measures our distance. The speedometer measures our speed. What does a thermometer do? Thermo means heat. Meter means measure. It measures temperature to tell how hot or cold things are, said Amelia Bedelia. Right, said her dad. And who counts how many treats you have each day? Amelia Bedelia looked at her mother for help, but her mom just looked back, shook her head, and shrugged her shoulders. Give up, said her dad as he began to chuckle. It's called a momometer. Mom decides how many snacks you get. Things were back to normal as they drove off on their road trip adventure. And that's the end of that chapter. Think of some idioms today. Use an idiom. Bye-bye. Oh, spelling test is tomorrow. Be sure to study your words.